So the second South African Investment Conference underway in Sandton, Johannesburg. We cross live now to our reporter, Liabo Setho, who is there to find out what is underway at that event. So Liabo, earlier on you spoke to some entrepreneurs, including the Northern Cape Premier. And now we talk about South Africa as an investment destination, hard competition that it's surely facing, especially amongst other nations who probably have a better advantage in attracting investors.
Absolutely, Tsepiso. So earlier on I talked to Francis about the kind of challenges that South Africa as an economy has. Chief among those obviously is the inequality challenge and unemployment challenge. And when you look at investment options and you look at the kind of issues that we are facing with, particularly the issue of electricity and Eskom and electricity security, I wonder what goes through the mind of an investor, someone who wants to set up shop here. But economists, that's normally their job, to crunch the numbers and to get views and to get a feeling among people who want to invest about whether South Africa is a suitable investment destination. This is why I have invited economist Maudi Lenswane to talk through us about the challenges that we face as an economy and what would make it difficult for investors to plow their money into the South African economy. Maudi, thank you so much for your time. As you said, I was just telling Tsepiso there that we do have a number of challenges that we are facing as an economy. What would make an investor not even look our way, but perhaps look at a neighbor's, another country which is in Africa's way, and decide to invest there and not here? What is standing against us and what is standing for us?
Yeah, Liabo, I think one has to acknowledge the fact that as an economy we come from a very badly managed economy in the past 10 years, and it was obviously going to be very difficult for the current administration to get things turned around within a short period of time. I mean, that's quite clear. So, but when you look at what has really transpired over the past couple of the 2 years that it's been in power, and I think there's a lot that has been done, but there's still a lot, unfortunately, that still has to be done. And you look at just the very recently presented budget that was presented, or rather the medium-term budget, and also the review by Moody's, it stipulates exactly what the biggest challenges are, and I think what really lies ahead. Moody's is very clear. They've now downgraded the outlook. I think the conversation that I'm having with a number of investors that are gathered here, some of the people from overseas, a lot of investors that have come here, and I'm sure you will be seeing a lot more of those tomorrow as well. In the back of their mind is a big question about whether or not are we going to be downgraded come next year, early next year, when Moody's eventually does review South Africa. That's a very big question that they're asking themselves. And I think it's very difficult for investors to make a commitment ahead of that review by Moody's, where we could potentially be downgraded as an economy, because that would be very catastrophic for our economy.
So would you say that that would potentially stand in a way of doubling the 300 billion that we've already garnered as an investment stemming from last year, because we are hoping for more announcements to be made tomorrow? What do you think? What do you think that could happen? Do you think we could double this 300 billion or maybe even triple it?
Yeah, look, I think it's you get a sense that people want to commit to South Africa as an investment destination. However, as I've indicated, I think there are some worrying factors that are still lingering on South Africa, and really making it difficult for those projects and commitments and those investments to really come through. One of which I've mentioned, and I think the downgrade for me, it's one of the big one. If we do get downgraded, I think it's going to make life very, very difficult for us. I mean, if you come into an economy that's about to be downgraded, you really watch, you wouldn't want to do that. A number of other things is, of course, you've mentioned it, I think in your opening, the security of electricity. We hear today that Eskom is saying, they've got some challenges that they could potentially be taking us back into a load shedding. I mean, those are some other, headwinds that are standing in a way of South Africa really excelling. But one has to acknowledge, and of course, the fact that I think the government has also done some work in terms of addressing some of the other challenges. However, it's taking longer in addressing some of the issues. For example, the plan that the Treasury has put forward as a turnaround strategy is being received by a number of other challenges with lots of oppositions from the very same ruling party, the tripartite alliance. So that also creates a lot of uncertainty.
I want to spend the last 2 minutes with you, Maudi, talking about what is in it for our viewers at home. People who are sitting at home, they're thinking, okay, so here's another conference taking place. Here I am sitting, not having a job. What kind of commitments should we be making, or should the country be making, to people who have lost hope, who don't have jobs, who just don't know where the next meal will come from?
People want to see the government really starting to do. I mean, I think there's been a lot of rhetorics, a lot of talks about and promises, and there has been very little intangible, actions. Where we are seeing that the government is actually doing, as opposed to continuing to talk and plan, and even the very same plan that is there before, that has been presented by Treasury, is also being challenged. So that tells you that there's no cohesion, there's no agreements about which direction we should be taking. There are people that are challenging the fact that the wage bill, the public wage bill, should not be cut. The question is, how do you do it? I personally would like to see some of these ministers who were there when the economy was being ransacked and obviously run into the ground. They were there. I think they should take a stand. Personally, I think they must come out and say, I'm going to cut my salary. Take the initiative to cut their own salaries. Because, I mean, whose salary do you want to cut? How do you deal with that wage bill if it's not the very same leaders that should be implementing it themselves?
All right. Maudi, thank you so much for your input. We do really hope that tomorrow, when the investment conference officially gets underway, Tshepiso, that we'll get more clarity about some of the issues that Maudi Lenzwane has raised with us here. And I know that we are right now hoping that in any time now we will get the box making their way from OR Tambo. And with that, I am handing over to the studio. Tshepiso.